With the action platformer run and gun in action, no other console could hold a candle to this one. I am the Game Collector and this is Second Opinion Games, and today we look at the Wii U, the king of the 2D games.
Second Opinion Games.
The Wii U had every Shantae game on it. Some are just remakes, and others like HalfGenie Hero just have a lot more content than we're used to seeing in such a simple game. I like playing as Ninja Mode, where it's an action-adventure game more than a huge epic RPG experience. Overall, this is darn good, and everyone seems to know it. Mario Maker is still being played online to this very day. I thought they were supposed to shut the services down, but no, people are still uploading levels, and because of the unique touchpad experience with the stylus, it's a lot easier to make Mario Maker levels for this console than, say, for the Nintendo Switch. That just doesn't feel like it has the same personality that the Nintendo Wii actually had. And if personality's your thing, then maybe you should look towards the Smurfs. This is the Smurfs 2, based on the epic motion picture movie for kids, as in, this game is completely for kids. But where else can you play as Papa Smurf, throwing potions around at bullfrogs and other critters like that? You could also play as Brainy Smurf, and even Smurfette if you unlock her. She plays kind of like Super Princess Peach does, just fluttering around. But my favorite is Clumsy, because he actually has a nice tripping attack. As you run, you just hit the button and he falls over and runs through the animals that he's trying to kill. Do the Smurfs kill a lot of animals in the movies? I don't remember this actually happening. Some of the bosses are really lame, like a giant bullfrog, but eventually you will come face to face with Gargamel himself. Even though this game is ridiculously easy, it's definitely worth playing. From the easy to the ridiculously hard, Volgar the Viking is one of the most challenging 2D hack and slash games I think I ever played. It's also one of those huge games, and a game that you will lose all of your armor the second you get touched by anything. You could also throw spears that you could use as platforms, and you pretty much have to do this in order to solve some of the puzzles in this game to move forward. But it's really all about the action here. When you manage to level up, you feel ridiculously powerful. If it wasn't for the fact that the second you get touched by anything, you lose all of your power-ups that you work so hard to obtain. However, the checkpoints here are relatively frequent, and you're gonna need them for this punishingly difficult experience. Mighty Number 9 was one of those Kickstarter games that really let down a ton of people. Usually these people were in the speedrunning community, so when you play a game really fast, you tend to actually break it. If you're just one of those people that likes a slower paced style of game, well, sadly, this was almost meant for the speedrunners. And if you play it slower, well, then you will have a better time with it and experience less glitches, but that doesn't mean no glitches. However, because this game can be found on the cheap, and I'm talking like $5 or less in the bargain bin, usually brand new still, it's definitely one you should try and pick up. Even cheaper is Pirate Pop. This is one of those Buster Brothers / Pang games where all you do is pop bubbles. Now the pirate in the middle can drop coins, which you will use to unlock, well, different characters that you could play as, because this is really the only stage in the entire game. However, it's challenging enough to have you keep coming back to it. Also, there's a nice gravity effect here as it spins the stage, and then you still can even fall and drop on the bubbles. You really only have a shot. There's no jump, there's no ladders, there's not a whole lot of bells and whistles here, but you know what? For like $2, this is a terrific experience. Noto Love Devolution is a game that felt like it was made for the 3DS and then quickly ported over to the Wii U. You pretty much use entirely touch controls here, but you can still use the D-pad to move around your character. Little circles will make shields that you have to set up in order to clear different areas of the game. Usually you have to tap on the screen a whole lot or swipe left and right to crush your enemies. Even though this game feels kind of easy, I never really truly got the hang of it. I feel like I'm playing it just rushing in as fast as possible and tapping all the enemies, even though it is kind of fun with a sweet retro feel. Now, Freedom Planet was an extremely retro-feeling game. It actually feels like you're playing a better version of Sonic. There's a couple different playable characters here, but I really like playing the one that makes me feel like I'm playing Sonic. She does have a nice uppercut, and there is that other character which she calls her tail, because this is definitely a true homage to Sonic, even though it's better than almost all of those games. Angry Video Game Nerd is one of those homage games to the true old schoolers. There's tons of different things that happen in old school games and in the Angry Video Game Nerd universe itself. Sometimes for better, sometimes for worse, sometimes just to make you laugh, and yes, it does. And when you kill that "where did you learn how to fly" thing from the Atari Jaguar, well then, that is where it just crosses the line for me. This is a hilarious game, even though it's old school difficult. And sticking with the old school, how about some remakes like Ducktales Remastered, where they got all of the old people from the 90s cartoons to reprise their voice, and then you just go on and experience it, which is pretty much a carbon copy of the NES game. Even though it was updated with a few more features added in, overall this is another terrific game. Just like Shovel Knight, which is definitely based on that old Scrooge McDuck experience. Pogo sticking around, this time on a shovel. I guess that makes as much sense as pogoing on a cane. I'm pretty sure canes don't actually work like that, and neither do shovels. Now, when you die in this game, you lose all of your money, and then you have to recapture your money by making it back to the same checkpoint. If you die before you hit that checkpoint and recapture your money, well, that money is gone for good. Luckily, the gameplay here is so darn good and precise that you'll keep coming back to it again and again. There's also tons of different unlockables and even downloadable content in this game, so if you don't like playing as the Shovel Knight itself, well, maybe you'll enjoy some of the other characters. NES Remix is the perfect fanfare game, chopping up some of your favorite old school Nintendo games in bite-sized missions. You will start to realize that the controls are actually quite bad. Were they really this bad when I played through it in the old Nintendo to begin with? Well, it's hard to tell. I do think that they stayed completely faithful to those games, but yeah, it's something you're going to want to overcome, and it's also something you cannot stop playing. I particularly like the Kirby games, which is why Kirby for the Nintendo 64's Virtual Console is definitely one I had to pick up. Yes, this is a 2.5D game, but that still means it's not fully 3D. It's 2.5, which basically means you can move left and right and the world moves around you to give you that 3D feel. And because it's an action platformer, it's also one of the darn best. Now, one of the cool things about this game is that you could suck up critters to get the best possible combination of weapons, but you'll always want to switch it out for other ones. But trust me, when you have explosive ninja stars, you really don't have to trade that in for anything else. All the bosses will go down in record time, and you will just plow through this entire game. Kirby on the Rainbow Curse is another kind of cutesy game where you use the touchscreen to sort of guide Kirby around. Sometimes you have to solve puzzles and get keys and lots of stuff that's just going on, making you wonder what the people at Nintendo were smoking or maybe even thinking. These people have creativity for years. And you know what? This was an exclusive to the Wii U and will probably never get ported over to another console. Unlike Yoshi's Woolly World, which got quickly ported over to the Switch, but I kind of prefer to play it on the Wii U. After all, that's the console it was made for, and the controls really kind of feel better on this system. Now, this is so cutesy that you wouldn't think that you could even die in this game, because even the lava it doesn't look threatening at all. Unfortunately, when you fall in, you still burn to death and die. So I wish there was like different skins that you could put over it to actually give you the dread and the horror of playing maybe a darker version of this game. That would be really cool, but as it stands, it's definitely one of the best 2D games on the platform. Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze is another one of those games that had to be ported over to the Switch because it was just too darn good to hold in with just the Wii U. And yes, again, it tends to play a little bit better on the Wii U. I'm not the best at this game, but I do appreciate playing with a really big monkey. However, Rayman Legends was also released on a ton of other consoles, but it definitely plays best on the good old Wii U because sometimes there's some touchscreen elements here that are just perfectly played. Matter of fact, I like playing most of the game as not Rayman at all. I like playing just the little puzzle things, sliding little guys back and forth, and this is just a great experience that can only be played here. Also, the graphical art style is something that is just amazing. Just like Badlands, where you play as a bat trying to make it from left to right. And now you can shrink down and even blow up to huge proportions. Sometimes you'll be popped by falling rocks, but you never go that far backwards. Occasionally you'll even multiply to insane proportions to the point where sometimes there's so many of you on screen at one point, it takes up like the whole entire screen. But don't try to save every single one of these bats. You only need to get one to the finish line, and there's also like 100+ levels to this game. Even though some of them feel like puzzles, some of them feel like you just want to throw the controller down in rage, but they are always a good time. Just like Angry Birds, this is a generic bargain bin game, and I like playing Angry Birds Star Wars because it mixes Star Wars with Angry Birds. A lot of people probably played it on their phone, but it plays just right on the Wii U tablet. You could use the left and right Z triggers to zoom in and zoom out of the screen, so you could really see all the different little things and crazy cool stuff in the game itself. Using your force powers is always a good time. But there is one 2D game I completely fell in love with, and that is Talamir. It looks like one of those early 8-bit cash grab games. And yes, it really is. The graphics are nothing that impressive, but the gameplay is just freaking sweet. It has tons of those RPG elements that we all grown to love. There's treasure chests with random treasures inside. The whole game is randomly generated, and you can actually pick what type of quests you want to go on. You could also sacrifice kittens to give yourself more health, but it kind of basically says that you're a wuss if you decide to do that, so I don't sacrifice any kittens when I jump into this game. There are different attributes that are assigned to different types of weapons and even armor that you pick up, so I recommend definitely going for anything that gives you health regeneration because this entire world is out to kill you. Just when you feel super darn powerful, everything can change in a split second where you will die. Also, picking up a flamethrower in this game is a must to start clearing some of the levels. The ice wand is also super powerful, but you're not allowed to move while using this weapon, so you're gonna want to have everything at your disposal. Sometimes there's a katana sword, a spiked club, or just the axe that you start off the game with. Through and through, this is definitely one you're going to want to keep coming back to for the challenge, and also because everything's randomly generated, which means it's a fresh start every single time. Can you clear all the levels of this? Well, I can make it to like level 60, so man, I just don't know how long it goes on. Just when I feel like I completely own this game, something happens that just rips me apart, and that's why it is my favorite 2D game to play on the Wii U, the king of the 2D games. But of course, that's just my opinion. hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I had a great time making it, and I could have done this video for a solid hour because I barely scratched the surface of all the great 2D experiences that you can play on the Wii U. So hopefully, if you love old school gaming, you already have one of these epic consoles. And if you don't agree with me, well then tell me what your favorite 2D experience game system is. Probably the Super Nintendo, because let's just face it, that had some great 2D games. Or the Sega Genesis, but you know what? If you mod your Wii U, you could probably play all those games on here too. I'm just saying. So hopefully you guys leave me a comment down below, and until later, I will see you again, guys.